welcome to the Pixel Scandal Nerdcast, episode 55. I am Kurt.
Nightson.
Handor.
I'm dying.
And Gigett. Today's spotlight topic is going to be players' plans, should they work? Before we do that, Nightson, do we have any announcements?
I would have liked to be warned.
You know, if Endo's not here, it's your job.
So I'm just the default. If someone's not here, their job immediately falls to me.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
Looks like we are resuming our SIP game, which is set in the Savage Worlds Adventure Edition, Suede,
Sweet.
run by our very own Gigett, and we'll be back doing that again Tuesday on the 18th at 6 p.m.
Yay. I'm very excited.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Well, let's move into what we're excited about. I backed Kickstarter this week by Sean Cross, is the same guy who did the It's in Your Head art book about mental health disorders that has really dark and creepy art in it. It's really amazing. He's putting out a deck of playing cards. So the cards have that same like creepy dark art style to it, and they look really
I was
amazing.
a lot more confused with what you actually wrote, which was playing cars. And so I was thinking Matchbox.
Yeah. Yep, cars. Yep. I may have typed that on my phone this morning while I was still in bed. Like, oh, there's things I'm excited about. Let's put that in there. But yes, that's the thing I'm excited about. I backed that cool Kickstarter. I think with shipping, it's like $20 for like the deck and stuff. Nice. And it's really amazing. They're really cool art. So
is it just a traditional funded 52 card?
Yep.
13 by 4?
Yep. It's just a deck of cards, but every card has really cool creepy art on it. So it's super amazeballs, and I will link it in the show notes. So if you want to go back that, you can.
Cool.
Nice.
It's already fully funded, and they already got their first stretch goal. So
I want a still piece of his art for a tattoo.
His art is very, very cool. I know that Mrs. Oreztes and I were looking through the It's All in Your Head book when it got here, and it looks amazing. So it'd be cool to have like a deck of cards too. So yeah. So go for it, Kurt.
Yeah, I put a couple things in here. So I just recently backed the Kickstarter for Hearts of Wulin, which is a wuxia like drama RPG. It's a PBTA game where you play as the characters in a like a wuxia melodrama, and you are it's like I think the default setting is I forget what century it is, but it's in the far past, right? It's that like Wire Fu, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon style show, but a lot more of the like emotional drama stuff, because a lot of those series still play out in China to this day. Those are like really popular shows, and so they're kind of like their soap operas, and so a lot of the drama is very like soap opery, and so that's it. It does this good mix of like half the game is fighting and doing like cool wuxia fights and wire fu type stuff, and then the other half is like, I love you, but you're betrothed to someone else kind of stuff. And so it's this fun mix of that genre. And go ahead.
I was going to say, I think a lot of soap operas would be a lot more exciting if they had a fight choreographer.
Right? If they just had some wire fu in the middle, they'd be great. And so yeah, it plays out just like that. Like you're at 1 minute you're like, oh no, should I go up and talk to them? What if their family doesn't like me? And then the next minute you're like fighting, with stabs and swords in the middle of the street.
It's super fun. It's like it's a PBTA hack sort of deal, isn't it? With playbooks and whatnot.
It's a PBTA.
Yeah, because me, I love all things Asian themed. So I was like, oh, I'm gonna look at this and see what it is. And I was reading through it, and I was like, that's a lot of romance in there.
Yeah, it's a lot of romance.
That's like, I don't know how I would do. Like, I'm okay with running like the stupid high fantasy, overpowered, like ridiculous stuff. I don't know about a soap opera.
Yeah, you like the Saturday morning cartoon version of.
Yeah.
But it's written by Lowell Francis and Agatha Chen, and with art by Minerva Fox, and it has 3 hours to go. So if you are watching this live, you have time. Otherwise, you missed it.
Okay.
But
well,
yeah.
Cool.
I have one other thing.
What else came in, Kurt?
Oh my god, I'm so excited. So something I did pay for, this wasn't a Kickstarter, this is something I just went and bought, is For the Queen, which I have up on the screen here so you can see. It's a super cool box.
It's a very little box.
And it's not a tuck box. It slides.
Ooh,
and
fancy.
It has such a cool queen. So
Very cool.
it's a card game. So all of the instructions and everything are these, everything is just cards. And it has one of the best, For the Queen I've talked about a million times, but it has one of the best like transitions from learning the game into playing the game, where you are drawing the instruction cards and reading them aloud. And that is literally the gameplay. So once you finish, you just keep drawing, and then it's into the prompts of the game. And one of the coolest things is they have these really awesome, which you can only see if you're watching this live or on YouTube. So go check out the video. Queen cards.
So if you don't want to make up like your own queen, you can kind of use.
I want
like,
that one.
Dibs.
Pictures.
Right?
On that one.
Isn't that one
Dibs on that
amazing?
one.
You can use the pictures as like a guide to help you like
Where's
create the feeling of the story that you want, which is super cool.
And here's my favorite queen. The one that's on the box.
Yeah.
That's my favorite
The
one.
Dark Queen.
They're very glossy
The Unknown
cards.
Queen, I
They
think
are
is
very
what it's
glossy
called.
cards.
But they're very pretty.
Good
And totally worth it. And you
so
can buy it
shiny.
right now on Evil Hat's website.
Yep, very cool. We have 2 of them. Because
I bought 2
Kurt's
because
crazy.
I was scared that I would be too precious with them. If I took them out and we were drinking, I'd be scared that someone would ruin them. So I bought a backup box
That's
so that
still in its saran wrap.
won't be precious about this one. So we can spill on this one and it'll be okay because I got a backup.
Okay.
Challenge accepted.
Okay, but
figured
don't
you
try
would.
to.
Right.
Don't just pour stuff on the cards.
Laminated them all or something.
Yep. Well, they're already coated anyway. It's fine.
Yeah.
We have 2 of them. So cool. Let's move on to. Well, does anybody have anything else they're excited about that maybe didn't end up in the doc?
Shadowbringers in less than 2 weeks. That's about it.
Cool.
E3 was kind of a letdown, I'll be honest.
Yeah.
But it has been for
I
forever.
mean, E3 had a lot of Final Fantasy VII Remake info, and that's really all I needed. It's so good. I pre-ordered the super big special collector's edition.
Nice. That's awesome.
You have a problem.
Yeah. Yep. But we all knew that. We knew
Yeah.
he's got a problem with that. So.
Yeah.
Well, let's move into what we've played recently.
So-
I've played the game of Packing and Tetris.
Yeah, you've been playing a lot of Tetris, right?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. So I'm playing how can you fit all of the things that you own into boxes and then stack the boxes so they don't fall over. That's the game I've been playing.
If you hadn't noticed, if you watch this stream, all of these little things behind us are empty.
Yeah, we're
All the
moving.
knickknacks are gone.
Next weekend. So I'm very excited. But the game I've been
Yay.
playing is Packing. That's my game.
Mm-hmm.
I'm currently winning that game so hard.
I'm very excited too. I'll be bringing all of my stuff out of storage over next weekend. And then I'll
Start
stack all the
unloading it
boxes
into the
up.
Pixel Scandal room.
Yeah, into my spare bedroom with what is it? Bay pots?
Bay pots.
Oh yeah, you can get bunk beds,
Yeah.
right?
You can get
Yeah,
bunk
bunk
beds.
beds. Yeah.
Yeah. I took a bunch of boxes over and unpacked like a good majority of my kitchen today, which was super exciting. I don't know where we're gonna make food now, but because half the stuff is here and half the stuff is at the new house.
We don't.
Taco Bell.
Luckily, other people can make food for you, and you can have it delivered and or picked up.
Yeah. I think that's gonna be the plan
We'll
for the
just
next
go to the food
6
store
days.
and buy the food there. I would like to buy 2 foods, please.
Yeah, so that's the game I'm playing. I'm playing the game of life, and it is hard, guys.
I hate that
very
game. It fucking
tired.
sucks.
Pro
It's
tip:
the
skip
wo-
college.
It has the worst PvP.
It's the worst PvP. Yeah.
I'm still waiting for New Game Plus. So
Did they ever update it so that college cost you like your whole life?
No.
Do the
Yeah.
loans for college are $100,000 now?
Yeah. It says you get a degree, you are bankrupt forever.
Yeah.
And then
You are
you
now in
just start
debt.
you just start a new game.
Yep. Well, cool. And Kurt, you streamed something yesterday.
Yeah, I played a game on the Gauntlet, which everyone's going to boo me when I say, but I got to play in a Dresden Files Monster of the Week game
Motherfucker.
Pause for boo. Okay, hey, they didn't boo.
We're all disgusted by you, Kurt.
The only reason I can't boo is because ahead of time, to be fair, you did say that there was a slot open and any of us could probably jump in and play.
Yeah,
probably.
and none
Yeah,
of
but
us
not
wanted to
4
play.
slots.
And well, yeah,
No, there
but
was
I mean,
one spot.
yeah.
Yeah, but you're supposed to be running a Monster of the Week game for us, and instead
That
you went and
is
played in
also
someone
true.
else's game.
Well, maybe he was just
And-
getting ideas. Maybe it was a research.
I needed to go
reconnaissance
steal.
mission.
I needed to go steal Blake Ryan's ideas.
Sure, that's what it is.
So when you guys see a giant demon horse with red eyes, which is apparently a statue in Denver,
Did you say demon whores?
horse,
A horse.
like,
Horse.
Hey, isn't that where a Nerd Cub is right now? Tell him to get a picture of it for us.
Yeah, End of Line
he
is in
He's in
Denver.
Denver.
He should
End of line,
totally.
yeah.
He should totally go get us a picture.
All right, we'll text him. We'll get a picture.
Yep.
But yeah, I played Monster of the Week, so I got to play the Spell Slinger. And I didn't go the Harry Dresden route. I went more of a
Old lady? Did you play it as an old lady?
I did not. I played a bartending kitchen witch, who all my spells were drinks. So like I had the frost effect. That was my effect. So everything just had mint. So it was like a lot of mojitos that I would throw. And I could make like ice walls. So I grabbed, we were in a coffee shop and I grabbed like a caramel frap and made like a frap wall. Yeah, it was fun. We had 2 other players. They were playing the Monstrous, which was a succubus, and the Divine, which was Joan of Arc, like the immortal Joan of Arc,
Nice.
who had a flaming sword. It was pretty cool. It was a fun game.
Yeah.
Went around and got fairies to try to help us out, because it was, I'm going to say some spoilers for Dresden Files. It was pre-Red Court White Council War, or right at the opening of that war, and so we were like running around trying to get allies for the White Council.
Yeah, I don't care.
Pre-Chichen Itza.
We're not getting to play in it, Kurt. You're not running it.
I'm sorry.
I don't care.
So we'll figure it out. Well, I'll have to run a Dresden Files Monster of the Week game, because it really does fit that world.
Bitter party of one.
Yeah.
At the very beginning of the game, I'm telling you right now, at the very beginning of the game, portal opens, out comes Billy.
Yeah. I think
Billy.
I'm curious if we could run 2 games in the same universe and use Urban Shadows and Monster of the Week, depending on the type of session we were going to have. Like, if you were going to do a lot of, like, politic-y stuff, like, run it in Urban Shadows. And then if you were going to do a lot of, like, monster hunting, run it in Monster of the Week. Because those are those 2 games together sort of make up Dresden Files in my head.
Yeah.
So, it'd be interesting to see how that would work.
Cool.
But yeah, it was fun. Thanks, Blake.
Did you guys get to play any Vigi games this week at all? Today's the first time I've sat at my computer in almost 2 weeks.
Nothing out of the usual. I played Battle Chasers Night War a little bit a few days ago. It's just a little RPG based off of the Battle Chasers comic book by Image from the early 90s. Like my favorite comic book series. I don't know how they decided to make a video game of it about 20 years after.
40 years, yeah.
Yeah. But the art was still all Joe Madureira, who's got probably my favorite art style in comics. So it's interesting. It's a pretty fun little game. I haven't got that far in it though. But aside from that, it's just more Final Fantasy, leveling characters, preparing for Shadowbringers.
Sweet.
That's awesome.
Cool. Well, if no one has anything else, let's move into our spotlight topic, presented to you by Nightson. Player plans and should they work? So, Nightson, why don't you take it away?
So, anyone who's run a game has probably run into the circumstance where your players spend an entire 4-hour session coming up with an ingenious plan on how to raid the Lich's lair. They're going to use water breathing and sneak in through the sewers. Well, there are no sewers. It's a landlocked castle, and he's a Lich. He doesn't need them. It's a fortress of magic.
Yeah.
This plan's obviously going to there's obviously going to fail. Their whole plan is based on false premise. Do you throw away 4 hours of their time and effort?
Oh, yeah.
Or do you say, yeah, there's a sewer. Sure, great.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think as the GM, it depends on the situation. I think if they're way off in left field and you're never going to be able to get them back on track ever, like they just went way off in a direction you didn't expect them to go, then I think you do kind of have to pivot and try to work around where they went. But I think if they're close to what your original plan was, it's okay to say like, oh no, there's nothing there, and make, have them pivot back towards, the plot that you have going for them. But I think it depends on the game. It's hard to, but I know as a player, like when you really feel like you figured it out and you get there and the GM's like, nope, it feels really like dissatisfying and like kind of like, man, such a bummer. So it's, it's kind of hard to say which one is better, right?
I mean, I think it depends on why it's important that there aren't sewers. I mean, so why is it important that their idea wouldn't work? Because if they come at it from a place you didn't expect, the problem is the castle doesn't actually exist. So it's impossible for them to make a real error, right? Because the castle does not exist unless you have it like completely mapped out. You've built the 3D model, or you've got the maps, right? Everything is perfectly created, and you're like, this is the castle. And they had opportunities to go and recon and didn't. Then, like, why is it important that there aren't sewers? Like, if their whole plan starts out, well, we could go in through the sewers, and they've seen the castle, then you could telegraph and say, well, it looks like it was created like, just jutted up from the earth, built of magic and stone. This probably won't have your typical castle type designs. So unless
you're saying that, like, if they start to come up with an idea that doesn't fit into your narrative, you can jump in and
tell them it's dumb right from the jump.
Well,
right.
I wouldn't say dumb, but I would only do this if it's extremely important that there wouldn't be the thing that they think should be there, right? Like, right. Oh, well, we'll get the staff to help us, and that all of the staff are constructs ahead of time. Like, say, well, oh, okay, well, that's a great idea. Maybe do some recon. Why doesn't someone roll some investigation or something to see if they can figure out, how to find the staff, right? And telegraph a little bit, like, oh, hey, I think, like, it's really important. I have a reason why that won't work, and I don't want to spoil it, but why don't we telegraph a little bit that maybe they need to do a little more digging, right?
I don't know. I think there's also something entertaining about, like, they're like, oh, we're just going to sneak in, and then we're going to convince the staff to help us because we're super charismatic, and they don't do any prep work, and they don't want to do recon, and then they show up and it's all constructs, and then they have to, like, come up with a new plan, like, at the moment. That's almost, sometimes that's fun to watch the players go, oh, crap. Like, why didn't we take longer to recon, or why didn't we plan better, and then they have to, like, come up with something really quick on the fly.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's actually an entertaining way of doing it, like, instead of overly telling your players, hey, your plan's not going to work.
Well, I think one of the problems, though, with that style of just saying, when you get there, deal with, you have a plan, you go, and it doesn't work, is players will eventually get to the point, and I found this in many games, where why plan? You inherently have imperfect information. No amount of recon is going to get you everything. Why plan? Just roll with it and hope for the best.
Right.
I mean, that's why I love games like Blades in the Dark that, by design cut that step out, because I don't like planning. I hate the planning step.
I don't like Blades.
Well, actually, Blades doesn't cut planning out. Blades just puts it after.
It makes it a mechanic. So when you bump into a situation, you just spend a resource to say, oh, I planned for this.
Yeah.
It makes it part of the thing to say, because that game wants to emulate characters that know what they're doing. They shouldn't bump into silly mistakes. Mm-hmm. Like, they should have been able to do the recon. So let's just make a way for them to come up with things that are improv later that there was absolutely no way for them to have known about. But of course, not every game needs to emulate that, right? Like, not every game is Ocean's 11. Sometimes you're Hogan's Heroes and you're trying to figure out, like, you're the silly guys and you're trying to solve a problem, and it's going to be silly, right?
So I guess what I want to know is it fun to always get what you wanted? Like, if you're in a game and your GM is always just going with your idea and your plan and letting it succeed, and there's never any conflict other than, oh, some bad guys, like, is that fun?
Well, I think it's always getting what you want is inherently just less fulfilling.
Right.
Well, depends, I guess. Certain players are going to be like, yeah, I don't care about this. I want to get more to this part of the game that I prefer.
Right.
But yeah, those who are interested in the scheming or the overall arc, yeah, probably are going to be less fulfilled by our plan to drop from the ceiling works yet again.
Right. I mean, when Oreztes' character saved the entire world by dropping a bag of grenades on the bad guy, like, that wasn't the plan. That's just what happened.
I think the improv, is it fulfilling if we know it will always work because the GM's just going to roll with whatever we come up with problem.
Right.
Only gets really unfulfilling if the solutions become less interesting, right? Like if they come up with a lazy solution because they know that like if they're metagaming, right, and saying, well, I know the GM is just going to do whatever we say, we're just going to walk in the front door. Why wouldn't that work, right? Mm-hmm. Then it makes sense to put some opposition, right? To show them, oh, well, it won't work unless you do the planning, right? Because this game, we've pre-established that the planning is a fun, important part of this game. And if you don't do the planning, of course it's not going to work, right? Like, because you're not walking in with the information. So I think in a game where the planning step is a big chunk, like Shadowrun or any game where you spend 4 hours making the plan and 30 minutes executing it, the plan is the game. Mm-hmm. And so if the plan doesn't work, why are we playing that game? Like the fun is the recon and the prep and the getting the little problems that come up during planning that's the game, right? Like in a Shadowrun game, the major conflict should be, yeah, but how are we going to get the thermite to blow the wall? Not, oh no, the wall is thermite proof.
Right.
So it depends on the type of game you're playing. Like if it's a gonzo D&D game where we're just bashing heads the whole time and then we come up with a plan to go through the sewers, like I don't know if that's the part that's important about the game. Like you said, I want to skip to the part that's fun. I want to bash the heads. And so if this castle is specifically made to make my idea bad so I can't bash heads more, then why are we playing that game? We should be playing something where, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I feel like you need to telegraph if that's important, right? If they're doing the planning and the planning is bad, like they're coming up with poor ideas and you know they're not going to work, like give them hints early. Like someone comes to them and says, hey, I saw you asking questions about the Lich's castle. You don't want to go in there. It's not like anything you've ever seen before, like have shit like that happen to them. So that they can
except I feel like oftentimes as a player, I'm like, oh, this person's telling me it's too hard and I shouldn't do it. I got to prove them wrong. How dare you tell me I can't do a thing?
But it telegraphs to them, oh, this isn't just your standard castle where anything we say is going to work. We need to do something special.
I need to kick ass harder.
Yes, I need to kick the door even harder.
I like when, if as the players, we present a solution, like, okay, we're going to go in through the sewer. It's like if you spend a lot of time prepping, I've always heard that GMs are supposed to be like, yes and. So if the group is like, oh, there's a sewer, well, okay, it's an old big castle. Realistically, there probably wouldn't be a sewer in there, but there probably would be a dungeon. So, like, you might not find a sewer, but you might find a tunnel where somebody dug their way out of the dungeon and escaped at one point in the past. And that'll get you access to the, to the castle.
Right.
So I'd be, I feel like it's okay to accept their plan, but maybe change it up a little bit to fit the, the theme or the environment or whatever's going on in your game. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But then if it was me, I would also say, yeah, as soon as you guys get, halfway through the tunnel into the dungeon, you trip the magical alarm because there ain't no way in hell they're going to let somebody else escape. And now the whole castle and a giant chunk of earth beneath it lifts into the air.
Yeah, no, exactly.
And now they know you're here and you can't get away.
Cue battle music.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, a lot of times if you listen to your players as they're making plans, they talk about the things that they're worried about or the difficulties they're afraid they're going to come up against or whatever. And so if you don't kind of zone out while they're doing their planning and you really listen, they'll tell you the stuff that they are hoping they don't see, and then that's the shit you put in there. I mean, it's kind of like when you're playing 10 Candles and the first few rounds when the players have all the agency, you have no idea what the monster is going to be, but if you listen, the players are telling you that they're scared of the water or they're scared of the dark or they're scared of the whatever, and then you just keep pushing on those buttons until you make your players scared. They're scared of children with teddy bears, whatever.
No, I mean, I think that's exactly it, is just pay attention when they're doing the planning, because they're going to say the thing that, oh, well, if someone's going to say, oh, but what if there's, alligators in the sewers? And you're like, okay, yeah, there's absolutely alligators in the sewers now. But maybe they're not alligators, right? Like maybe they're something else, right? Like there's aqua gorillas in the sewers or whatever.
Troll.
Yeah, there's a water troll in there. So
I'm sorry, aqua gorillas are now canon.
Yeah, there's absolutely aqua gorillas in there.
There's awakened squids.
Yeah.
With 8 levels of barbarian, that quadrilateral groid axes, and they fly and have air breathing. So have fun.
If you have an awakened squid with the class levels and you don't choose monk with Scorpion's Grasp, you're doing it wrong.
Well, I mean, okay, so let's go back to your initial right. Let's go back to your initial suggestion that it's a lich's tower. Liches don't need sewers. Well, they probably have like experiments that create a byproduct that needs to be expelled from the thing. So now what are they wading through, right? Like what thing could live in the magical waste, the radioactive magical waste that a lich creates with their, bizarre experiments. That's what they have to deal with now.
Yeah.
So maybe their water breathing thing still works. Like they can breathe by dunking underneath it, but did they bring protection for this like magical sickness they're gonna get from wading through arcane radioactive waste?
It's all mummy rot.
Yeah,
it's all mummy. And I think, Kurt and I have argued about this topic in the past, but I think for me, that's why I as a GM typically, I may not know all the steps of how you guys are going to get to the end or the solution, but I know what the solution is, so that as you guys are making decisions, I'm working the story in that direction. Kurt's very like, it's going to end up wherever it ends up, which it frustrates me, because if you don't know how it's going to end, how are we supposed to figure out how it's going to end?
Tell me.
But
tell me what you want to do. Roll the dice. The dice decide.
But I think it depends. I think it's a GM style. So for me, like, I know where you're headed, and I just take what you guys are doing and try to help guide the story towards the ending, where, Kurt takes what you guys are doing and throws in complications until it ends.
Yeah. And that's, I think, honestly, that difference in GM style is why I prefer things like PBTA.
I hate PBTA.
Because it really works with my style of, you tell me what you want to do, we'll roll the dice, and then something interesting will happen. Right? Like if you succeed, then yeah, the thing you wanted totally works. There's totally sewers. The water breathing functions as it was. You rolled a 10+, of course it does. If you roll a 6-, dude,
yeah, we
aqua
all know
gorillas.
there
are absolutely aqua gorillas down there. And now they know you're here, and the magical thing tripped, and the castle's moving, and cue battle music. Like, that's how I like to play games. And
yeah, I think the reason I don't like PBTA and that style of GMing, though, is what if all of the dice rolls succeed and the players get everything they want? And
those games are
kind
of boring, actually.
They are really boring. They're very boring. And that's I think, why I don't like that style of game. Because if you're always succeeding, then there's never any conflict.
Yeah.
The same thing with if you're always failing and you're always banging your head against the wall. Like, if your dice can't help you figure out the solution, then you're never you're not having fun. I feel like there needs to be a balance between the two.
I disagree with that premise that the 6- in PBTA is a failure.
Well, let's not have this argument again.
But, okay, so back to Nightson. I'm throwing it back to you.
So
I want to say real quick, I think it's interesting that the reason why you guys like or dislike systems is based on the mechanics of the systems, and for me, it's entirely based on the playbooks and character creation options.
So, kind of coming back though, one of the things that, the always success or even if the dice are hot kind of situation.
Mm-hmm.
One problem is you have a very real problem of invalidating some of your players.
Right.
If the plan is we're going to cast invisibility and sneak through the dungeon and steal the sphere of happiness.
Sure.
And for whatever reason that works, their plan is decent and they rolled well and they get through. What does the barbarian do?
Yeah.
What is
Where's
what
the
is
conflict?
everyone who is not the person casting invisibility and the person's stealthing doing?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, I think there's a reason that players in plate mail, whenever someone says I stealth, they immediately say clang, 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 clang. Like they're saying, yeah, that's boring. I wanna do the fighty fights now. Please.
No, they're saying I'm wearing full plate. I'm not trained in stealth. I have a -10 to it. I might as well not touch my dice.
Yeah,
There's a 5% chance that I don't just fall over.
Well, that's the D&D equivalent, but if you're talking another game system where any kind of plan can inherently just invalidate a skill set.
Right.
True.
When
this happens to face characters all the time when the barbarian rages and they never get to talk to anybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I do feel like getting everything you want can feel just as boring as banging your head against that wall and not getting anywhere. Like those two things are very dissatisfying. So there has to be a balance.
I think it depends on who's getting what they want and what it is that they want.
Okay.
I think if you let me have a deck of many things, it wouldn't be boring.
So that comes down to spotlight management, obviously, and presenting challenges that are going to show the strengths of the characters. So maybe their plan does work, but they didn't account for the thing that's going to make the barbarian useful 2 doors down, right? Like the next room is where the barbarian's going to be useful, or the next room is where the bard is going to be useful, or the space marine or whatever. And so getting in through the sewers doesn't take them straight to the orb of happiness. They got to that just gets them in the castle, right? So putting limitations on it like that, or not limitations, but adding conflict along the way, I think is great. It's just when you say, "Oh, sorry, there's no sewers," after letting them plan for 4 hours, like that feels like a dick move to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it depends on how much effort. This goes back to are you rewarding them for planning or not, right? It's how much effort your players put into planning is whether or not you just go with it or not. If they're just like, well, we're going to do this thing, and they run in, you're like, oh yeah, there's totally going to be traps and shit that they did not think about,
Well, if you're listening to the players and because they're talking right in front of you, so as soon as one of them says sewers, you just be like, stop right there. If you're gonna not let it happen, just be like, don't waste your time, guys. There's not.
Or, someone make an int check. Because of whatever.
Yeah. Here's the thing, though. Honestly, if a group spends 4 hours planning without any form of recon, I'm almost inclined to punish them.
Yeah.
Why didn't you actually do any recon?
Yeah. Right. It's like that 4 hours was just you guys arguing for an hour and a half.
Do we take the boat or the horses?
Right? Do you take the boat or do you take the horses? Like you argued for an hour and a half. You didn't actually do any recon. There wasn't any planning in your planning. There was just debating which would be the best direction, and then you ran headlong into somebody's plan, right? And at some point, you kind of have to, I agree with you, Nightson, you do have to not punish your players, but put up obstacles that they would have seen had they worked a little harder to plan instead of just argue, right?
Yeah. There's absolutely a difference between we did the recon and we tried our best and then the GMs invalidated our effort versus we sat here and kibitzed for 4 hours and then ran at the castle with no actual plan.
I still like the idea, even if they do recon and plan, that there's still like something they missed, right?
Of course. Yeah.
There's still like the one complication inside that even if all of their recon and planning and everything was perfect and the dice were on their side, I still feel like there needs to be something inside that they just could not plan for. And that's what makes it interesting, right? Yeah. That they're like, we saw every angle but that. Like, Well,
one thing I like, and I've done it at the odd time, and I'm trying to do it more, is give actual mechanical benefits for planning, for recon. And that, like, if in something like D&D, you might have a advantage to skill checks for things that are related to the recon you did. Mm-hmm. Hey, we have a map of the castle. Great. So you have a advantage to rolls that are going to be for tracking your way through the castle or not getting lost or something like that. Mm-hmm. Or surprise rounds or skipping some encounters directly.
Right.
Is can be an advantage. All to try to encourage
or knowing that something's hiding in a specific spot so that they don't get the drop on you kind of thing. Yeah. Like you're still going to have that fight, but you know that they're standing there, so it makes it a little easier.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Or maybe you brought your +9 ogre slaying knife that has +9 to slaying ogres.
Because you know there's an ogre there.
Because you knew the ogre.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Instead of staying at the bar and getting drunk.
Exactly.
Why would you ever leave the bar? Because there
are girls there.
Now, a system like Fate actually kind of does that, where you actually can spend your pre-planning time actually using what do they call it? The tags, adding tags to the scene, to yourself even, that you can use later to get mechanical bonuses.
Yeah, creating an advantage in Fate. I actually wish that that was more prevalent in other games. Like,
yeah, but in Fate you could just spend a Fate to make a declaration. So who cares about planning? You could just react to the situation when it comes up.
You just rip the doors off that car and bang the hell out of them.
But if you do it in advance, it doesn't cost you those Fate points.
True.
That's true.
I think in Fate, when you spend the Fate point, you actually don't you get a permanent, or not permanent, but a semi-permanent.
Yeah, the tag is sticky, I think is the term.
Mm-hmm.
Rather than a one-time use. But sometimes the one-time's all you need.
Yeah.
Actually, one of my favorite times that I've used the declaration in that way was we were... it was, I think, 3 of us. We were doing a Dresden Files game, and we were going to sneak into a warehouse full of vampires. And I passed my chip over, and I was like, all right, cool. We go on the roof and look through the skylight. Which, looking back, thinking now that there's vampires, why would they have a skylight? But
it's really dirty. You had to rub the dirt off of it.
But the GM was really cool about it and was like, yeah, okay, yeah, there's a skylight. What do you do?
My favorite Dresden Fate declaration was the revolver that was used to shoot the BBEG in the face and end the game.
and not that goblins don't need arms or don't deserve arms.
Oh no, that's for sure. That's canon in all games everywhere.
Yeah,
that's a setting aspect.
Yes.
Yeah.
Goblins do not deserve arms.
Aspects. That's what it was.
Aspects.
Goblins don't deserve
Here we go.
arms.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, and it does bring back that failing forward thing too, right? If you always let them succeed, then they never learn anything, and so sometimes letting your players fail, right, is how they learn. If you're going to have them fight something really difficult later on down the line, and you want them to fight a easier version of it, you could have them fail fighting that thing, but they learn like, oh, they're weak to this, or we have to plan better for next time or whatever. And so that they can go up against the, I don't know, the Night King or the Vampire Lord or whatever, because they failed killing the baby vampires, but now they know, oh, okay, they're weak to this.
That's the core conceit of Monster of the Week, is that anytime you face the monster without their weakness, you will fail to kill them. Like, you may win the fight, but they won't die. Like, they'll get away.
Yeah, so that's part of that failing forward thing.
And then you have to learn. Then you have to learn what to do next time.
Yeah, exactly.
For the most part, I really like failing in tabletop games. Because
it creates interesting situations.
Adds weird stuff. Yeah. It's like, I want to do something cool, so if it succeeds, oh, that was cool. But then if I'm doing something cool and it fails, it's like, okay, well.
It's going to be even more interesting.
I think that's part of... I'm a little wary of the new Benny system in Savage Worlds where you can spend a Benny to make a declaration. Because,
it's alien.
Huh?
It's alien.
It is alien in that system, but also if you can just make a declaration because you failed at something, then how do you fail forward, or how do you make those interesting moments happen if you just declare your victory into something?
Well, failing forward doesn't mean fail to learn. It means that failing doesn't stop the narrative.
No, I know. I just mean like spending the fate points or spending the bennies to take over the narrative control sometimes prevents those interesting failures happening because you've taken the failure out, and so now the weird whatever that was going to happen as a result may not happen because you took narrative control.
Well, I don't think. I mean, yes. One of the things that they did add as a failsafe to that is you can't Benny a double one.
Yeah.
So Snake Eyes, you can't Benny those. So you're kind of guaranteed that like worst case failures are still a threat. But I don't know necessarily that spending a Benny to create a truth in the game invalidates a failure or makes it less interesting. I think those are more going to come up when you need a thing and there's no way, like, it's just saying, hey, I'd like to add a detail to this scene, not necessarily to invalidate a failure, but because I have an interesting idea that would work better if that truth was there.
Yeah, I get that. I just think that oftentimes when we feel the need to take narrative control as players, it's because we feel a failure is coming. And so we're like, oh, well, if I just spend a Benny and take narrative control and kind of switch the script a little bit, right? Just change one little thing and now things are a little more on our side than the bad guy's side or whatever. Sometimes the interesting failure part of things doesn't come through, right? The like heart-wrenching other player who decides to go on the bad guy's side and screw over the whole party because the bad guys were winning. Well, maybe they don't decide to do that now because the party wasn't losing. And so that interesting character development doesn't happen, or you know what I mean? Like those kinds of if you spend a Benny and or fate point or whatever and change the narrative, sometimes you lose out on those interesting moments.
I guess. I've always seen them more as, hey, it'd be really cool if I could swing from a chandelier right now. Let me pass you my little token and get that. There's a chandelier, right? Like, that's how I've always used them, is I've got a cool idea for the scene that isn't pre-established. You know, do I need to pay you my BS currency to say that this cool thing exists? Like,
yeah, but I think it also depends on the player. I think some players are need to win kind of players, and so they're going to spend their fate points and their bennies in a different way than you would. You and probably Oreztes are going to spend them to make your character do some weird cool thing, not necessarily like make sure you guys win. You're just going to do something weird with your benny that's going to be funny or interesting or you know, but not all players play that way.
Right. I guess you could say there is the risk that, like, if you're playing that Monster of the Week style game and you're like, oh, well, you need silver, and someone's, like, throwing their Benny at you, like, well, I pull my silver necklace off my neck, you know, like...
Yeah.
That's I guess that's different. That's a different way of looking at it.
I think it depends on the type of game you're playing, and like, I think the darker, more gritty games, you want those failures to happen. You want it to
Can I make an observation?
Yeah.
Real quick. the reason you don't like the system is because it's similar to the way Blades handles planning.
Yeah, I don't like it.
It's literally the ability to make up. No, I'm totally prepared. I had the thing, or this thing is here.
Yeah, I like the idea of, as a player and when I'm GMing, that your players get to in some situation where they don't have the things they need to succeed, and they have to improvise, and they have to come up with a different way of solving it than whatever the easiest way would have been. And so when a system lends itself to, oh, well, we just have that thing that would make this situation easier, then sometimes it's less interesting.
So because of the way I feel like this might be a little off topic, but maybe not. Because of the way that the bennies work now in Savage Worlds, I made a character who is better at fighting when there are axes nearby, and who does not carry axes because that would be silly to just carry around an axe. But I can spend bennies to be like, oh, I grabbed the axe off the wood pile on my way towards the monster. I don't have to like be the kind of guy who like carries an axe with him. I can but be good at fighting with axes.
So it's just your magical superpowers. There's always an axe nearby.
Yeah,
somewhere.
I'm good at finding axes.
You're like, there's the fire thing on the wall. I break the glass and take the axe out.
Yeah.
You're like the huntress. I'm gonna open this meat locker. Oh, there's axes on the wall. Sweet.
Sweet.
Oh,
It just sounds like an edge.
Yeah.
Luck is a prerequisite.
Yeah.
Always an axe around.
Always an axe to grind.
Axes abound.
Axes abound. But yeah, I do think that games like Blades and Fate and now Savage Worlds with the Benny thing, I think do take a little bit of that need for the GM to yes and or no but the players, because the players have a little more control over what's going to happen anyway. And so the GM really, their job is more to just create conflict because the players are going to be able to solve their way out of it. That's my opinion anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's all I got.
Okay, well, you hate Savage Worlds now, so it's time to move on to a different system.
I didn't say I hate Savage Worlds.
That's what you said. You put it in the same grouping as Blades in the Dark and Fate. That means you hate it.
I mean, I would say in order of dislike, it would be the new Benny system in Savage Worlds, then Fate, then Blades. Blades is the worst, in my opinion. Because I don't like the planning stage.
Anything that gives players narrative control?
No, just
anything that takes away your power?
No, because I don't like playing them either. It's not that I don't like GMing them. I don't like playing them. I've never GM'd Blades or Fate. I've only played them, and I don't like either of them.
Well, maybe you should GM them.
No. I'm not going to do it.
We'll change your mind.
I think one key thing to point out is everything we said is completely invalid in the case of a con game. If you're talking limited time, if you have a session that is 3 hours or 4 hours, yeah, their stupid plan works.
Yeah, just go with whatever it is.
No, you absolutely let them plan for 4 hours at a con game.
Yeah.
Well,
your job as a GM is so easy.
Yep.
3.5 hours.
You get your free con pass for nothing.
Well, and my GMing style is already kind of a yes and. I mean, when I'm writing a game that has any type of investigation in it, and there's multiple locations, I have multiple clues or pieces of information, and wherever you guys go, that you're going to pick up some information. Like, it's not, well, if you don't go talk to this one specific person over here, you're going to miss out on this whole big chunk of, like, if you decide this is where I'm going to go, then you're going to get information there. And so not just, like, did their plan work, but also when they're going to try and solve a mystery, is the information where they decided they think would be a good lead? Cool. So they find a scrap of paper that has someone's name written on it, which leads them somewhere else, or they go to the crime scene and they find whatever, you guys decide there's 6 people to talk to and you pick 2 of them to talk to. Okay, well, those 2 people are going to have most of the information, and maybe it's not going to be as clear cut if you had gone to the other people, but you're going to get the information you need depending, wherever you go, because that's like, it's not fun to go to somebody and they're like, yeah, I don't know anything. And you're like, well, shit, where am I supposed to go now? So I think my GM style is already kind of a yes and I like investigation games, so.
Well, especially if you literally cost that person their 15-minute spotlight for that scene, and
right.
just like, nope.
Nope.
Thanks
sorry.
for coming.
You went the wrong way. You split the party and you went to the wrong one.
I'm trying to help you, GM. I set it up so I could do my cool thing.
Yeah.
Why aren't you letting me do my cool thing?
I ran a game.
I put the points.
I ran Who Framed Jessica Rabbit at as a playtest and then at the con. And at the playtest, the players went one completely different direction, and I was like, okay, well, apparently my clues are leading them that way. And I kind of reworked some stuff, so it just was like, okay, so that's the direction it's going to go. I get to the con, run the exact same game, made a couple of little tweaks, but basically the same game, and they went the original direction that I thought the players would end up going, and so I had to like scramble and change, like, oh yeah, okay, so I had originally planned for them to go this way anyway. And so like it even when you do make plans for like this is the way things are going to turn out, your players are going to go left when you want them to go right. So
that game was awesome.
So yeah, I mean that's part of the, I think as a GM, a lot of it is just going with what your players want and then putting conflict in the way.
Oh, you mean
No.
It's
the taking narrative control part that I don't like. We'll have a fight about that later.
Okay.
We'll unpack some boxes and argue about RPGs.
Come to our sister podcast, Kurt and Gigett Fight About Stuff.
Yeah. So, yeah, but that's I think for the most part as a GM it should, like Oreztes said, be yes and let your players feel like they've accomplished things.
I'd argue and say it should be yes, but if their plan has an obvious flaw, let it work, but punish them.
Hard.
Let something
like real hard
bad happen.
There's the sewer, and that's where the Tarrasque lives.
Well, and
the gorillas.
I don't know if punish is even the right word. Like, make it really friggin' interesting. Just if now there's aqua gorillas. Like, that's way more interesting than like, yep, you get inside the castle.
Handor, you've been really quiet today. What's your opinion on this matter?
Yeah, you're prepping a spy game. You gotta have all sorts of thoughts on this.
I ran that last night.
Did you run
That's
it?
why I'm so.
Dude, why didn't you talk about it in the What We Played recently?
Man, I'm so
too tired to talk.
All right. Well, I expect thoughts next week. I expect to hear about it.
It went until like 5 a.m. or something.
Oh, dear Lord.
Oh, my gosh. Okay.
That sounds like new gamers.
Yeah.
Yeah,
oh,
yeah.
man. Remember when we used to game till like 3 a.m.?
Yeah. Yep.
Well, character creation was like 2.5 hours. And it's Fate. Like, it shouldn't have taken that long.
Let me give you a pro tip. On a one-shot, don't have them generate Fate characters.
Yeah, do it yourself.
Actually, we did a session 0 for our Fate game where all we did was character creation for like 3.5 hours.
Yeah, because it took forever.
Yeah, we actually made a rule after last night that from now on we'll do, when everyone shows up, we'll do character creation for our next RPG, and we'll drop that and play games for the rest of the night, and then the following week we'll jump right into RPG.
Yeah.
Yep.
Session
0 is super important for any new game.
It helps GMs too, because then you have time to think about like, oh, these are who my characters are that I'm running a game for, so you can think about how you can make it cool for those particular characters.
I honestly can't wait to tell you about a little bit about when they started creating the characters and the aspects and skills that they chose for the campaign that I wrote, and the shit that they were just nailing on the head constantly with character creation. It was like one guy created a janitor and it was like perfect. One guy created or two guys decided they were going to be a security team, and I'm like, oh my god, that's perfect. And one guy's like, I'm a research lab assistant or head of this company, and I'm like, you guys are literally creating characters based on the NPCs I developed for this game that could just take the place of NPCs.
Nice.
So it was pretty cool.
That sounds awesome. I can't wait to hear about it next week.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Yeah, I think next week we should definitely talk about character gen then, because we can talk about what your character gen session was like.
Okay.
Okay, cool.
Perfect.
That's planned for next week. Sounds good, guys.
All right.
Well, does anybody have any final thoughts on our should players succeed topic for today?
Aqua gorillas.
Aqua gorillas.
Aqua gorillas.
For sure.
In case of emergency, aqua gorillas.
Nice. Hey, Kurt, where can people find us on the internet?
Oh, people can find us all over the internet, Gigett. They can head to pixelscandal.com, where they can find back episodes of this show. They can find links to our social media like Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Twitter and Instagram, we're at Pixel Scandal. Facebook, we're at Pixel Scandal Show, because friggin' Facebook. They can find our email address if they want to email us, or they can fill out our contact form. They can email us pixelscandal@gmail.com if they want to ask questions or have us talk about something specific on the show. They can find links to support the show. They can go to Patreon or Twitch, where they can subscribe or become a patron and get special patron rewards. Or they can find links to our audio feed in Spotify or iTunes, or an RSS feed for their individual podcatchers. Yeah, they can get us all over the place. We're everywhere. We're in all the things. Come and say hi.
Awesome. Well, thanks for watching today, guys. We'll see you next week.
Thanks, everybody.
Well,
Bye.
Bye. Love you.
God damn it, Handor.